like to welcome a good friend of mine, Heather Fisher, aka Fishface, who is a famous England female rugby player, and she's going to be helping us today on our inaugural Fish and Frank's mental health and well-being. So over to you, Fish.
Hey Frank, how are you?
I'm cool and groovy. I've just come back from Lisbon. We just opened up Portugal, Thomas Frank's, which is going really well, thank you. Lots of travelling.
Nice. And you've had a new haircut?
Had a new haircut. Do you think it makes me look less than 49 or more than 50?
I reckon 49.5.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Love you, and I missed you.
Missed you. Anyway, yeah, I basically just want to introduce myself and Frank as well. So Fish and Frank's is literally a frank conversation on your desktop, your living room, in your workspace, wherever it might be. And the whole aim of it is to, I suppose, to relate to you guys, to make you realise that you're not on your own. You've got obviously Frank's behind you, you've got myself behind you, and we are all struggling in our own way. It looks completely different for everyone. It can be really scary. It's the unknown. And COVID has honestly tested me, and it's tested us in so many different ways as humans. I like to say as sapiens, but it's tested us in so many ways that actually you kind of do feel alone, because we're all dealing with things differently. But it has tested us and forced us to probably make changes that we wouldn't have made before. So today, myself and Frank just wanted to basically have a frank conversation with you about the comfort zone. And just that word in itself brought so much to my head. Obviously, as a England rugby player, I was aiming for the Olympic Games. I should have been left last week, and obviously it's been put back one more year. And when I think about what I do every day of my life, it's all about being outside my comfort zone. I love being scared, but it doesn't mean it makes me feel good all the time. It doesn't always mean that I look forward to it, but I know that's where I get the best out of myself. So today's obviously conversation is the comfort zone. Frank, what comes to mind when we talk about the comfort zone?
So my comfort zone is two or three things really. So I've got Thomas Frank's, which is a massive comfort zone to me. It's like it's just like a big duvet. I've got so many talented people in Thomas Frank's that if I ever feel lonely, there's nowhere I can hide from trying to find someone that can help me or talk to me. And I think that's a big lesson that I've learned, is there's so many talented people in Thomas Frank's that if anybody who works for us feels that they are lonely or they're struggling, just pick up the phone. And there's a culture of that in Thomas Frank's. So that's one of my comfort zones. And my second comfort zone is my family, my children. To talk to your family. If you feel a bit low or a bit down, or you feel that you are having a difficult day, don't hide in the cave. I was taught that by somebody. It's one of our clients actually. She said to me, don't hide in the cave. Come out of the cave and tell people how you feel. They won't laugh at you, they'll help you.
It's so easy done though, isn't it, Frank? Like, I spoke to someone last week and they gave me a phone number and they said, look, Fish, if you're struggling, just phone this number. I still haven't phoned the number. So it's easy sometimes to say, to make that phone call or to reach out, but for some people who can't reach out, how do you deal with pressure? Like, I know for me, I deal with pressure with probably five main things, if I'm honest, that spring to mind. I need to understand who I am, where I'm going. So if I understand myself, I understand where my limits are on this continuum of this line of pressure, then I kind of feel like I have more direction over myself and how I handle myself. When I'm organized, the small wins, so everything you do in your day that is like a positive, it might be waking up, just making the bed, open the curtains, that might be a win for someone. Someone else, it might be going to the office and saying that hello to someone that you felt a little bit worried about saying. And the last one for me is knowing your limits. So you've got to know your limits. We'll all have different limits. Obviously, you have very different limits to me. I have different limits, and how we perceive pressure alters our perception of the comfort zone. Would you agree?
I do agree, and I think that from a professional perspective, one of the things that I've heard people talking about is they feel pressure when they feel they've got too much to do. And one of the things that I've learned in my life is to share that. So if you've got a lot of things to do, don't think you're an island. You've got to pick up the phone to who you work for and who you work with and say, what would you do about this? It's not a failure to ask for help, but you can make it easier on yourself by actually not thinking that you are failing. You can think about asking advice. So take that list of jobs you've got to do that's causing you stress and pressure, pick up the phone and say to people, what would you do? if you're in my position? How would you deal with this situation? That's how I've led my life over the last 30 years. I've never been embarrassed to put my hand up and say, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm actually saying,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to go, I'm struggling now, I'm at my limits. And I love a delegation, love to delegate, because actually that takes the pressure off. And some people perceive that as a weakness. If you can't do it yourself or you say I'm struggling, I actually see it as a strength, because it means that you know your capabilities.
I think you're right. I mean, I went to school for 15 years. I left school quite early and I didn't put my hand up. I didn't say, I have no idea what you're talking about. It was all Greek to me. And as soon as I left school and went into an apprenticeship, I was taught to put my hand up and say, ask us if you need to be shown, again, this task. And I've lived my whole life doing that. So even now, I'll put my hand up, or I'll pick up the phone to my finance director, to my HR director, to my regional directors and say to them, what would you guys do? And I want them to do the same. The culture in Thomas Franks is open, it's friendly, there's no failure. Pick up the phone, come out of your cave and say, how would you deal with this?
Frank, question for you. Have you struggled since you've been in lockdown? I have, but you might not have, I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, because you said this is about Fish and Franks being honest. And if no one knows Fish very well, she will pick you up and she will throw you if you don't be honest with her. So honesty is about saying how you feel and not being frightened about it. So have I been concerned about lockdown? Yes, I have. Initially, I was worried about the health and the welfare of my family because there was a virus out there. I then learned more about it and learned that we can cope with it, we can be careful. I was then concerned about the 2,000 employees in Thomas Franks. How can we look after them to make sure their jobs are safe? And I've gone through each week of lockdown just asking myself the same questions. Have I done enough to protect my family and my employees? And I think that's quite a calming thing. But have I been concerned about it? Yes. I've been concerned about my own ability to be able to deliver those things. So I talk to people. I put up my hand, I pick up the phone, and I speak to people. And I've got a number of people I speak to at every level. I pick up the phone to some of our chef managers and speak to them and say, hi, how are you? How are you coping? And the conversation just evolves and you feel better at the end of it because you've shared your feelings. That's how I cope with the struggles of lockdown. And you get so much energy, not just from other people, but from feeling that you have been honest with yourself. You've come out of your cave, you're not hiding, and you're sharing your problems. That's how I deal with it.
I think you're right, Fran, because I've struggled with lockdown, and there are times that I've just hid in my cave in the back and not wanting to really get out. I've had a coffee in my hand. I've not been smiling. I've been honest. I've probably had more down days and tears than I have had ups. And one thing I probably struggle with is that people look at athletes as like these superhuman, nothing affects them. They're so resilient, they're so strong. But resilience comes from taking your time to be able to come out of your cave, like you said. And it doesn't mean you've got to go, hey, I'm struggling, I'm out of my cave, I'm ready. It's a kind of a sign to go, look, I'm struggling, I'm going to come out of my cave slowly, but you're learning to talk to other people. And learning to talk to other people is actually a skill, because some people might not find it easy to talk, like me and you talk for days. But if you don't find it easy to talk, it might be just picking the phone to someone who's close to you, and that might be your one person that you go to. But it's just having your relief to release that pressure that's inside of you.
I'll give you an example. So during lockdown, we did feeding communities, which you know about, Heather, because you were instrumental in coming out and delivering food in a particularly mischievous manner, I think, in London. But the whole point of that, in bringing you out to help deliver that food to the homeless, to the vulnerable, was it made you forget your own problems. It made you have a purpose for that day or for that week or for that month. And I think one of the things that I hope will be a legacy of Thomas Franks is our wish to eradicate food poverty through feeding communities. But actually, when I'm asked, why did I do that? Why did I put money into this project? The real reason wasn't just to eradicate food poverty. It was for the health, the sanity, and the well-being of my employees. It gave hundreds of people a chance to get up and get out. And they've said that.
I honestly believe that, because when I came to help, I helped on like 4 or 5 days, and I felt like I had a sense of purpose. I was driving somewhere for a purpose. I was helping for a purpose. But actually, in our England culture, when I played for England Sevens, we always say if you help someone else, it actually makes you feel better. And you're only as strong as your weakest. I'm only as strong as the person to the left of me and to the right of me. So I challenge everyone in Thomas Franks to actually look to the left and look to the right and see who's around you in that circle and go, right, how can I make someone else stronger? How can I empower someone else? Because actually, if you empower somebody else, and we know this, Frank, you know, it actually empowers you. And that's the way to really give back, in my eyes.
I think you've nailed it there, Heather. I think the one thing that we can do with our particularly unique culture in Thomas Franks, which is open, friendly, and it's just so warm, it's not a cold place to be. But we have to make sure that we're not losing people that are hiding in their cave still. And what you've just said there is true. It's a team effort in Thomas Franks. It's just like a game of rugby. Without that team firing on all cylinders and looking after each other, it won't work. So I think one of the things that we can do is to coach people to understand that they're not alone. There's a team culture, and that team can help people by lifting them up. Good point.
So, Frank, like, how do you, if someone's listening to this now, and like, for instance, I've been in the cave most days, right? I've come out of it. I've been forced out of it because I've had stuff to do. So I would say I've been in quite a hole, if I'm totally honest, and I've gone quite quiet. But I can easily put on this front and go, hey, I'm Fisher. But actually, today I'm not putting on a front. I'm actually just being totally honest. And if you're someone like myself who's been struggling and go, actually, I have been in the cave, there are days that I haven't come out. How do you help yourself come out, or how do you actually find where you need to go again instead of putting on this brave face of I'm okay and of smiling?
I think there's two things there. I think if you work in Thomas Franks, let's keep it at Thomas Franks for a moment, there needs to be a driven culture all the way down from the very bottom up to the top, and from the very top down to the bottom, that understands that people need to be able to contact you or contact their employer or contact their department for help without feeling embarrassed about doing so. One of the biggest problems I've heard about mental health, and we've all experienced it, let's not be embarrassed about it, it shouldn't be an embarrassing topic, it should be normal to talk about mental health, is that people are embarrassed to admit they're struggling. People are embarrassed to admit that they're feeling low. And I think if they're allowed to fall between the cracks, that's when it gets worse and worse. So the culture of companies has got to change, and they have to change to embrace mental health as part of normal life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I've struggled myself, and that's probably out there. But I felt embarrassed originally, but actually it wasn't embarrassment that probably stopped me from getting out of the cave, Frank. It was probably I didn't understand it, so I didn't know what it looked like. If I drew a picture for you now, and it would be out of stick animals, because that's all I can draw, you would probably see something completely different to what I see. And actually, I didn't understand that, like, to have anything mentally going on doesn't mean you're ill. It doesn't mean you're different. It might just mean you're having a few bad days. It might just mean you have a cry now and again. It might mean that you just don't feel quite yourself. And that's what I learned. So if I can give anything here to Thomas Franks about understanding that mental well-being, it was, what does it look like? It just looks like you're not yourself, and you feel a little bit probably distant, and you have to really make an effort to really come out of that cave that we talk about. That is where it's about understanding it and accepting it first. So you've got to be able to understand and accept. You have to be able to know what the signs are.
Well, let's get some well-being champions trained up that can keep an eye on people. Let's get these people reasonably based, you know, so that people can watch out for the signs of somebody that's struggling, whether it's for a day or whether it's for a month, and we can stop that. We can get them looked after. I mean,
I love that idea.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I think that it'll be a journey that will take some time. But if we get people trained up to look out for other people and have our own internal department of people that deal with mental health and well-being, then the culture will completely change in business.
Can I be in, please? Can I be a well-being manager?
You can be the director of well-being.
I will make sure everyone is happy. But actually, not even happy, because I talked to my psychologist about this, Frank, and people go, I just want to be happy. Actually, happy is a feeling. And I imagine myself, you might think I'm a bit crazy now, guys, but bear with me. The weather, right? If you look up in the sky now, you've got clouds, you've got sunshine, you might have rain somewhere, you might have storms. but you keep on walking through it. So even though the weather's changed, and even though it might suddenly be stormy and sunny, the sky can handle everything. The sky stays the same. We keep walking through. It's just the weather that's changing, and the happiness is a feeling. It's like a sunshine. You don't always see the sunshine. You've got to go a little bit further sometimes to go and find it. So I think you're spot on in terms of well-being managers moving forward, well-being people to look after people. The little teams, clusters of people could really help, because actually we reach out to everyone then who works at Thomas Franks, which is obviously what this is aimed at.
I think you're right. I think the key thing is also giving people purpose, not just purpose for the job they do, but the social aspect of any family business should be as important as its commercial aspect. So the feeding communities is going on to phase 2 with cooking with children. We're looking to try and eradicate food obesity through good nutrition by teaching children to cook.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's get people that are on their own, or they feel they have no purpose perhaps outside of work. Let's get them involved in that social aspect of Thomas Franks, so that they feel there's something else to do. And if they're busy, if their mind is busy, perhaps they'll come over or get over what they're going through and then become a future champion. I like the idea of that.
I think that's made me go all goosey, and it's made me go all goosey because I was at Twickenham Stadium yesterday just seeing a physio, and I bumped into a couple of boys, and they were saying, "Fish, I've just lost my purpose," and I went, "Me too. I've lost my purpose," and I actually feel myself welling up now. Think about it. Sorry, I actually get a bit upset. Sorry, but it's really important because purpose gives you a drive.
It does. It does. And you've got a purpose. I mean, you and I were thrust together by a couple of my clients, yeah. And you're one of the most magnetic people I've met. You know, when you get Heather Fisher in your life, it's a different kind of life because you've got so much energy and purpose, and you can share that with people and train people how having a purpose can give you a better life.
Totally.
So let's do that. So I think there's a number of people to thank here. I think we'll thank Mark Williams and Sarah Stewart from Bearings, who put you and I together. God bless them. One of the most expensive things I've ever done is meeting Heather Fisher. Watch out, she's not cheap, but she's great. I think there's clients like Nicola Mason at St Julian's who talk about coming out of your cave. Don't hide in your cave. There are some superb people in Thomas Franks that want to embrace and change mental health and well-being for the better in this country and in this industry. Let's applaud that. Let's take it forward. There isn't a budget for it because you can't put a budget on the health of your people.
No, you can't actually, Frank. And what's hard because you can't see it, but everyone just needs to know if they do their little bit, then actually we can all drive the standards and all drive us as people towards better places. Because this isn't going to go away for a few years. You know, it's going to take its toll. But in it together, we can do it.
Hey, Heather, when you win the gold medal at the Olympics next year, yeah? I mean, obviously you'll get me a first-class ticket over there, yeah?
We'll have Fisher on the back of it.
So where are you going to put the Thomas Franks logo? Like under the armpit or underneath here or something?
Top of my head.
Top of your head. Let's go for that, yeah? You might get in trouble. Love you, Heather.
Love you too, Frank. Speak to you later.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, Frank.